with your company?
Well, I was doing with blockchain technology mainly with crypto money. A couple of years. I started to do it in 2016, 2015, 2016. And when I launched ARTEIA, I was thinking about using blockchain technology as a means for securitization of assets or access. So I was quite close to blockchain. But of course, as you probably know, from my life and from anybody's life, the beginning was not that exciting. So blockchain was something very, very pathetic word, and most people didn't understand it. Then it became much more fashionable. And then suddenly, beginning of this year, because of NFT, everything changed. More and more people started to know about the blockchain space, and this was some kind of craziness for me. You know, when during 1 month in April you can 700 wallets open just to trade NFT. This is something very special. Something very special. So for me, NFT is a movement which surely will survive and will bring new opportunities to the art world. It will bring a new kind of art to the market, and it will open markets much better than it is now. But above all, a blockchain world will become a de facto standard. People started to understand what is it, and I think the main advantage is that NFT is a perfect use case, so that people can understand what this technology is bringing to you. So well, this is just the beginning of this movement. Because it further go onto real decentralization, and this must happen because when you look on the marketplace, it's still very centralized. If you see all these marketplaces like Rarible, like OpenSea, they are all centralized, but they use behind the blockchain mechanism for transferring the value. So summing up, I believe that this is a huge movement. I believe that it will stay with us forever. I think that it will open completely a new market for art. And this market, on one side, will bring a new kind of objects. On the other hand, will bring millions of people who are hidden or who are not existing on the art market. So
That's
very positive development.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Maybe Don, what is your take on that? What makes it excited? What makes your excitement in that space, NFT?
Well, to reflect on what Marek just said, and maybe elaborate or expand upon that, the platforms, marketplaces, solutions that exist right now are exactly what Marek said. They're centralized, right? That they allow for decentralized functionality, but the actual activity is, broadly speaking, a centralized function in terms of curation, consolidation of the assets, etc. And to me, it seems like we're just with these different platforms that have emerged in the recent past. We're really just perpetuating the existing buy side, supply side dynamic, as opposed to really creating enriched ecosystems and overall engagement. And from our side, at KEYKO and also with NEVERMINED as a tool, what we're really focused on and have been, we've been doing this for quite a while now. Co-founder Dimi going back to 2012, 2013, myself 2017, we're looking to provide creators with agency, right? That's always sort of been the name of the game of the type of work that we're doing. And the question then becomes, how does that actually manifest? And clearly it doesn't manifest in a command control centralized environment. You need to be able to actually, you know, prescribe rights of ownership, but also certificates of authenticity, et cetera, and be able to combine that, you know, with assets obviously that exist on chain, which is great, but not everything does exist on chain. So how do you couple these digital ownership devices with assets that may also be digital but not exist off chain, or alternatively that are physical as well? And so these are complicated questions to address. We're, you know, pushing ahead with our thesis and our narrative, which again is to empower artists and creators and provide the agency that they need to create the ecosystems that they're actually trying to achieve, as opposed to just, you know, dropping pieces of work from time to time.
Yeah, but you're already in section 2 a little bit popping up some the real problems. Maybe Clément, you can save come from your side. I believe when you say something about the community that is now much bigger, I guess, in the art space. Maybe you can elaborate on that. I do not want to influence that, but to see a little bit the excitement why you from KEYKO are embarked on this trend.
That a question for me, yeah?
Yeah. Also, it's not a question. I ask you for a statement. What is your impression? Why are you, I assume, excited about this development? Maybe you can share your excitement to the audience.
The reason why I'm excited for the development around NFT, and more particularly NFT for the creative communities. That is the statement I should be elaborating on. Yeah, okay. I'm very excited. The reason why I'm excited is because the amount of new projects and approaches that we see taking on the fundamental concept and technological concept of an NFT, to just play around with it is almost overwhelming in a positive sense, because you see more and more projects questioning exactly what you guys just talked about. For instance, this whole idea about ownership of those marketplaces and how value is being attributed between the technology providers and the community. I mean, there's countless examples of projects like Loot, for instance. I don't know if you've heard about Loot, which basically is about providing a community with a free minter that lists a bundle of items within an NFT, and then having that community building on top of actual, you know, of an actual list of physical items to create some sort of game. So it's just very interesting games around value transfer between the builders, the users, and the facilitators. And right now, I think that it's only the very beginning of of how NFTs and like those unique digital assets will impact the world, not only of creatives or artists, but in many different ways, and also how NFTs enable the creation of communities around, you know, common goals and views about the world and purpose, basically. So I think it's also having a big impact on like open source communities that we will see, where it can become a pattern in how communities are developed, yeah, and built. So just sky isn't even the limit. I don't know what the limit is, but I'm very happy to be involved.
Fantastic. Tim, I'm sure since you are in the crypto valley, in the heart of the crypto valley, I see the excitement and many students entering that field, or is that maybe is that something you see?
Well, excitement, I think, from my point of view, is in two areas. So on the first hand side, from a research perspective, the excitement is all those technological possibilities and all those unsolved questions Don just mentioned. So the link between physical and digital topics. So like Oracle problems. So how can you solve this? So there is really a lot of research possible, and that's exciting on the one hand side, and also exciting to teach this to our students, to let them step into this world, do some student projects, also combine this with other educational programs. So I see there really a great perspective in the future.
Yeah, you mentioned something very important. I want to embark on that, the physical to digital transfer. That's something we see in the art space. And last Monday there was a talk with an artist and collector who talked about his NFT journey. He's a collector. He has collecting GIF, and but the main focus from a collector and from an artist perspective was usability of these platforms, and also very important, the price. I mean, that's quite an issue. If somebody enters this, then he has to pay quite a lot, at least when you are in Ethereum. And this is also one of the reasons why, for instance, Solana is performing very well, because everybody loves Solana because it's much cheaper than going into Ethereum. Nevertheless, what I really want to explore a bit more, the interface between physical to digital. And I understood Marek. Marek, you are in contact with artists who are in the sculpture business, sculptures. And I believe you were instrumental in developing sculptures, bringing that in the digital space. Maybe you can elaborate more on that, Marek, please.
Yes, indeed. Companies dealing with sculptures and with copies of sculptures a year ago, and I believe in some way we solved the problem of physical digital connection. I have this in my mind for many years, but I was looking for something which can be useful, and not only useful for painting, but also for sculptures. So, you know, we started with artificial intelligence using image recognition for identification of objects. So we did a nice project with the most impressive hotel in Warsaw, when they have 400 art pieces, and it's still working fine. It's nice, but you couldn't use it for anything else than images, and you have to spend a lot of time for calculation. So we knew very well that this is not a path to go. And a year ago, we put our hands onto the new chip from the company NXP. Company NXP is the #1 in RFID NFC chips. It's ancient Philips. And we got from them a new chip called 424 NXP and DNA. And it was something very interesting, because it was the first NFC chip with two-phase commit. So we program it, spend some time, work with them, and we have now this connection since April. So basically, having such a chip, you connect it either to the object or to the certificate or to the box, whatever, and this will fully identify you the object. It's, I would say, very, very secure. I don't believe anybody can falsify it unless he has a means to buy a factory for the chips. So this works well, and this was the first phase of the project. Now we are putting this project, this NFC ID on the blockchain, and it's ready for minting, for doing NFT out of this. Of course, this is another process. Somebody has to know what he's going to mint. But anyway, the problem of blockchaining, the information of making it secure, and then use it to authentify the object, I would say this is solved. There are other ways to do it, but I don't think that any of them will add up to any kind of object. Same with ours. I don't think that NFC can be put, for example, to the blue chip. I don't think that anybody will put a chip to the Mona Lisa or to the Rembrandt painting because they don't want to touch it. So, you know, it's a difficult question, but I would say this connection exists, and we have a chip, some other people who have a chip. So I would say this is something very interesting. And for this sculpture company, its name is Sculptures. We solved the problem. It was delivered. We are now sending them another new chips for the new set of street arts. And we are now applying it also for paintings. And it looks nice. It looks nice, but you know, the fun is not with this. Fun is really with having the blockchain and using this chip and an anchor on the blockchain as a means for any kind of marketing stuff. Because when you have a dumb object, it's a dumb object. But when you have it connected to the blockchain, it opens you a whole new door. I mean, it's a big door when you can send an image because you know to whom of what's happening. You can send him info for a new exhibition of that guy. You can send him info about the book. You can ask him whether he don't want to buy it because there is somebody. The object is identified, and you know what is it. So, it opens you a door of a new kind of interaction. And of course, for me, such interaction should be anonymous as much as possible. So having it on the blockchain is a great plus. Okay, nobody wants to be attacked by 1,000 mails per day. But having this on the blockchain, you can restrict it to something really serious. Okay. So this is what we are currently working on, and it's quite an exciting development.
Thank you very much. Is there another angle of experience with the physical to digital, maybe from the other panelists? Maybe example or Clément, yes.
My experience between physical and digital in the blockchain world. I used to work at a company called Weave that was actually specializing in hardware for Oracle data from the physical world. So their intention was to create IoT chips So working together with hardware and software to create trusted zones in the physical world. And I could see that there was actually a lot of complexity to proceed with what Marek was suggesting here, both in terms of hardware, but also of software, because it is actually very easy for anyone to kind of modify the state of a sensor or modify the state of a chip in the physical world by either physically manipulating it or through the use of software. And so you've seen over the past years a lot of hardware specialization around trusted enclaves, which basically are secure enclaves at the hardware level that allow to use some cryptographic tools to testify that data coming out of a sensor is actually authentic. But there's a lot of providers and a lot of research being done in the space, because right now it seems like I would say like $1 billion problem, and that would be soft. These are hard problems to try and solve. So I'm very glad to hear that Marek is looking into these things. But for me right now, I think at this point we're mostly looking at like R&D, and I haven't seen anything concrete popping up the radar solving that issue basically.
Maybe Tim, is in your territory this connection also a topic that is addressed in an academic sense?
Yeah, so there are several research projects focusing on these topics, and as both other speakers mentioned, there are solutions going in the hardware direction, but I also see a slightly different problem area, and that is this kind of do we need a registry for NFTs? It goes in this double spending problem where we see that today you have physical objects or GIFs traded on different platforms in different smart contracts, and nobody's really prohibited to sell one GIF in 2 different contracts for the same price, and you don't know which is the original contract, and all those problems we are today dealing with. I think that, yeah, they are really, from a research perspective, interesting. From a user perspective, not really yet solved, and also from a usability perspective, there is a lot of potential here.
I see. Maybe Don, you want to add at this section? Otherwise, I would shoot for the next question.
No, I think most of with relation to, I think the digital twinning of the physical world to the digital space is still emergent, and things are going to change over time. It's nice to see that we're actually tackling this problem, but it's also it's a pretty difficult problem to tackle, and there's a lot of different aspects that you can focus on. And I think over time, you'll see things like standardization and that sort of thing manifest. But right now, it's a bit of a wild west in this space. Anyway.
I see. Let's just be in the wild west. Let's talk about data. Data is definitely your territory. You can say NFT and all this development is also similar to an explosion of data. And you spent the last, 15 years or so with building digital ecosystems. And I understood that your mission can be explained with changing the way in which people and companies manage and work with data. Now, with relation to the NFT space, maybe what are the major issues from your side that still are not solved, or that might come up in a later stage as an issue to solve?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that still needs to be solved. I think addressing kind of what the advantages of the technology that the technology provides for over contemporary or more traditional solutions is something to focus on. I spent a long time, as you mentioned, building large scale data estates, and the predominant issue that still presides over these solutions is a lack of fidelity from a provenance point of view, right? Basically trying to answer a few questions. Where's your data coming from? Where's it going? And what's it being used for? Blockchains, broadly speaking, are a very elegant solution to this, to the standard provenance questions. And then as they relate to NFTs and explicit ownership or implicit ownership, as the case may be, as well as certifying authenticity, etc. You know, the fact that there's now a means of recording and reporting that information is very advantageous, and that leads to a world where, you know, ownership of an asset doesn't need to be singular or binary. You can have multiple owners, and you know, obviously fractional reserving an asset already exists in the current world, but fractional attribution of creation doesn't really exist, right? And this is where, you know, when we start to talk about the true power of crypto and specifically of NFTs and the agency that corresponds to this, providing agency within an ecosystem for all the contributors to an asset is, you know, it's incredibly powerful, and it's you know, extremely novel. And that's, in my opinion, what the game changer is. Now the question is, how do we leverage this going forward, creating, you know, everybody's trying to argue that this is sort of the underpinnings of the new internet, kind of what everybody wanted to create way back when. How do we actually, you know, exercise the capabilities that are on hand, do so to sort of meet those expectations. And, you know, this is, again, something that we're working on explicitly. You know, it boils down from a technical point of view to things like, you know, federated or decentralized publishing of the asset or the availability of the asset. You know, the asset acquisition via a token like an NFT, and then possibly the access control and corresponding usage that goes with that. You know, and can you do that in hybrid environments where the asset may not necessarily exist on chain, right? So these are all emergent sort of capabilities and technologies. We're actively solving these problems. Clem's actually working on a music marketplace that takes into account assets, music files that exist off chain, and coupling that with corresponding NFT and the ownership rights that go along with it, and corresponding access. And so this is all, you know, incredibly novel, very interesting and cutting edge application of the technology. We're kind of in, you know, trial by error, or trial by fire, maybe a better way to put it. You know, and seeing what we can actually do with this stuff, right? And then, like I sort of mentioned before, as we coalesce around what works and discard what doesn't, will I think what will precipitate out of that are certain standards, and you know, that'll be helpful to everybody that's involved across the broad spectrum of the creator communities, et cetera, as well as, you know, from a technology side where we're coming from.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great also from an investor's perspective to have standards up front. But
yeah, no,
know,
I totally would. You know, it's hard to evaluate what's going to work and what isn't, and it is
right.
A bit of a crapshoot, sort of real finger in the air estimates of what's going to work versus what isn't. Yeah.
But maybe Clément, you can add here your view. I mean, you are very in a lab and situation, then you deal with criteria, if it's successful or not, etc. So it's, I mean, you need to have kind of a benchmark in a way. And my benchmark, it's just my experience I had during the ICO hype, etc. But very often it's not the same. It has changed. You have different situation. It's very hard to compare and to maybe on your. Do you have something from your side for that topic?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question, that one. So talking about benchmarks, well, there are benchmarks, but pretty much like a lot of indicators, on-chain indicators in the crypto space so far, they come and they go. Like, for instance, it's been the case that for DeFi protocols, for instance, traditional way to look at it, or to evaluate, those protocols could be looking at total value locked in the smart contracts, because most of the DeFi ecosystem is enabled thanks to over collateralization of assets. So that means evaluating the riskiness of a protocol or a financial service based on the value that is tied and locked in its smart contract. So it's like TVL, that's for DeFi. But then many others kind of emerged, and we can look at, for instance, market cap to revenue ratio. We can look at fully diluted market cap and a bunch of other indicators like that, that are very specific to DeFi use cases. Now, I think fundamentally DeFi and NFT, although they somewhat overlap, and people are looking into ways to get these two worlds merged together, they yet rely on very different parameters just because of the way these worlds operate. In the DeFi world, most of the activity can actually be fully monitored and understood on chain, which means that you can run analysis on like those parameters and those benchmarks for what happens at the smart contract level. But in the case of NFTs, like we said earlier, it is way less at the protocol layer that innovation is happening. I mean, innovation is also happening at the protocol layer, but the standardization of the use and the consumption of NFTs happens at like higher level of the stack, meaning that the benchmark you can use are different than what you can observe at the smart contract level. So to elaborate on that, in the case of NFTs right now, it really looks like if you're looking at collectibles, the floor price on secondary market is probably the best indicator you can look at for how successful and demanded a project is. So that literally means, is there a rising floor price after an edition or a series of an NFT, in the case of collectibles, has been out? How does the market respond to that? And obviously, having a rising floor price here is a good measure, is a good metric. Now, there's also more meta analysis to be made there, and I think the big winners in the space will be also the ones nurturing long-lasting, sustainable communities around their projects, which does not necessarily translate in a rising floor price for the assets that are coming out of these communities. And so in that regards, you can also look at engagement with the community from a governance perspective in the NFT world. And so for us right now, looking specifically into this music project, we are yet to define our own KPIs, although we are creating a space for us to experiment with those secondary markets, and therefore rising floor price and observing the floor price will be interesting for us to validate that we can create these different layers of scarcity for the music collector community and the crypto collector community. So yeah, rising floor price on secondary sales will definitely be a KPI or a benchmark that we'll look after. I hope that's informative.
Absolutely, thank you very much. Maybe Marek, since you are connected to the traditional collectors, very, very high profile one, have you had a discussion on when we talk about the NFT development, What are the KPIs, or what is the hottest topic right now to discuss?
Yeah, I would say that is a rather difficult topic to discuss. You know, first of all, as you said, my company and me are on a rather traditional art market. And, well, I'm involved with blockchain technologies because I like it, and I'm a mathematician from the background. But you have to look at the real users. And, you know, when I speak to real users, if I will tell you that over two days talking with different players, nobody even heard about NFT. So, you know, so some of them heard about blockchain, they don't know what is it, but they never heard about NFT. You go to the museum and you see young people and they never heard about it. So I'm asking, are they reading what's happening, or they are not interesting, or they don't understand, they do not understand. So I believe that among art communities, there is a huge misunderstanding of NFT power. People still see it as a kind of digital existence. They don't see NFT as a means or as a mechanism behind which can be used to transfer the value. Okay. There is another thing which I was quite astonished. People don't understand the intellectual property. People think that when they buy NFTs, they are owners of what is inside. Okay, so this is crazy. I mean, I couldn't believe my eyes, and I found out that this is not a problem of NFT. Maybe it's a problem of any artwork. Person is buying a Picasso and he thinks that he owns the content, but the content belongs to the family. So, you know, so there is a bunch of issues which I believe are coming to the light right now. Thanks to NFT, people start to understand that there is a complex problems and they must address them in that or another way. And it's coming to the market. I believe that by the end of the year, maybe within 6 months from now, but there will be more and more people interested in this subject. This is a number one for me issue. And second issue is this huge misunderstanding which I see between collectibles, and art, regarding the digital market. You know, you can look at any asset, any digital asset, as looking at its content or looking on the value. My question is a very simple question. If an artwork, a digital artwork in a form of NFT, is changing an owner 100 times per day, is it still an art or is it not art? Okay.
That's a very good question. I had just a friend sent me today a link to the article that TikTok embarked now on the NFT. So that raises the question, when it really goes so mainstream that TikTok is a platform for NFT, or at least a social media platform for NFT, then how do you approach it from a curator perspective, etc.?
Yeah, exactly. And this is a problem I'm confronted every day. When I speak with people involved with art, let's say I spoke with somebody in London who is very much connecting museum and collectors, and she told me that recently they made a poll between 1,000 collectors, and 90% of those collectors were buying art because they wanted to help people who are doing this art, which means for me they are understanding what they are doing, or at least they are understanding the personality. On the other hand, when you look at on the OpenSea or all that kind of stuff like TikTok, whatever, you see people changing the value all the time. So they are not interested in what they are selling. There is a hype behind. So this is interesting. And I'm not against it, but I would say that this is a different business. Okay, you cannot mix this up with a standard approach to art, and even using a modern blockchain-based mechanism for art exchanging, for changing the value. Okay, but this is I would say this is rather a research project. This is something which we have to understand, and we still do not understand because it's so new. So it's maybe a question to Professor Weingärtner to tell us more how they are dealing with this, or whether they are dealing with this at all at the university level.
Yeah, Tim, you are directly addressed with a question. Do you want to respond?
Well, I think the question would rather be for my colleagues from the design and art department, but that's this this very interesting topic about NFTs, because it's not only an IT topic; it's really very interdisciplinary, and you have these art aspects in it. You also have a lot of legal aspects in it. So who is the owner of artwork? What does it means owning an NFT, and what rights do I have? And then from an IT perspective, what do I link together? Which data do I combine with it, and all those ideas? So yeah, hard question.
I see you have enough space in your lab. Maybe we can pimp it up with an NFT section, and also you have at least two data scientists at the table. Then you have the circle closed. You have a data scientist, you have a designer, really design, and in the sense of art, and of course yourself as the blockchain infrastructure guy who really helps to advance. Maybe one could add that it's the economist, since NFT also opens up new ideas how to make money out of that. I mean, you have a new layer to make money, and to be honest, when you talk about with artists, they try to make money out of their art. That's basically one of the motivators they have, to be honest. I mean, that's a key issue. Nevertheless, coming back to the last question we have, I tried to make a connection to the ICO hype we had in 2017 in the crypto valley and around this. I wanted to ask, is there kind of a deja vu today and there, or maybe we just answer the question with two things. First, how do you see the future of NFT, and connected to that, what would be your call for the world? What should be done that it maybe goes in the right direction? Maybe two elements, but one is really important in my view. Maybe I gave you an input. Maybe you change your blockchain lab into an NFT blockchain lab. That could be something. Maybe Tim, can you say a statement about the future? How do you see the future of NFT in different areas? And second, what is your call for the world?
Well, first, the future, it's always hard to predict. I see some similarities to the ICO hype. So I think at the moment we are in a hype. I also see that there will come regulation to this topic, because whereas a lot of money dealt with, and especially with on an anonymous level, there will be some regulatory issues, and FINMA or financial market authorities that jump onto this, or tax authorities into this. And I think for next year we will see a lot of those topics in this space. And well, a call for the world, I think, well, at the moment it's all about selling some collectibles or gifts on OpenSea or other platforms, thinking about making money very fast. I think we should come back more on the art perspective. Also, Marek proposed and discussed before, and also not only think on art, but also on other disciplines. I think also for the industry, supply chain topics and all these, NFT will come or become more and more important.
Who wants to be next? Maybe Don?
Sure. So in relation to the ICO hype of 2017, 2018, I'd say it's a little, I'd say it's quite a bit different. There are a lot more controls. User experience is a lot better. You know, I did a token raise in early 2018, and you know, we're going through the process of. I mean, we've been involved with DAOs and NFT drops and stuff already. It's substantially different in how it's processed and the control mechanisms that are now in place. I mean, from a hype point of view, I guess the interest is similar. I think perhaps the speculative side of things was more rampant, you know, 4 years ago. Now it seems more to be more about price discovery and what's the floor and stuff like that. So what we see is more of a, you know, a sophisticated or sophistication of the consumer. You know, my call would be for people to really educate themselves about this. I see NFTs as simply a tool. You know, I don't think they're the end game by any means. They're just you know, a capability that enables you know, the transactability of different assets, and I think more importantly, Marek was kind of alluding to this, not necessarily the rights to ownership, but things like certificates of perhaps authenticity or access to an original version of something, etc. So yeah, the real call is to just for people to educate themselves on the tools themselves, and how those apply to the broader economics of the domain space, which is art, and how that's evolving over time.
Cool. Maybe Clément, you have.
Yeah, I think here I concur with my boss, and I will say, yeah. But I will say that I think NFTs are certainly not the end game, but we should still be thankful that through this like trial and error kind of period we're going through with crypto, NFTs have seemingly been like the main reason for mainstream media and even audiences to pay attention to what was happening there. So I think you know, back in the days of 2017, when we were talking about utility tokens, and we had a lot of scammers around places, you know, basically robbing retail investors by promising the world in the so-called white papers. That happened, and now we are one step further. I'm not gonna say that you know, all projects are legit. Absolutely not. But people start associating their people and companies known in the public space start associating their identity with these projects, NFT project, and we can talk about Visa. We can talk about, you know, a lot of individuals even that are very prominent in the technology sector start getting involved. And I think just for that, and getting people curious about it and getting those communities to understand the value of digital collectibles, we're making a big step forward, because, 4 years ago, the ICO craze was really just described as a mania for maniacs. And today, I think it brings a bit of like justification as to how we're trying to redefine value, because at the end of the day, that's I think the end game. So it's part of the process of the decentralized world eating the software world. So that's my hope, my say on it.
Fantastic. Maybe one observation I have in contrast to the ICO hype we had, where you just needed a white paper and then a nice website and then the money went in. Today you also need kind of criteria, I like it or I do not like it. I mean, if you like it, then take it, or if you do like it, then okay. And this is an element, of course, comes in as well. That's as a difference to the last one. And I believe also what you said, Marek, maybe I gave you the last word, the chance for the last word. Education, it's definitely an educational thing for the mass also. Would you agree that it's NFT opens the art mark to the masses? And the proof is TikTok. What would you say, Marek?
Yeah, I would definitely say that this is a mechanism which opens this market. Of course, this opening, it will take time. It will not happen overnight. But finally, people has a means to participate. This participation level on a classical art market was very bad, because you could only go to the gallery, or maybe you know some artist, or you are happy to be rich enough to buy a blue chip. Okay, now thanks to NFT, if you look well, because what we have now is kind of, sorry for the expression, bullshit. You know, there's everything on the platform, but the art platform will come, that's for sure. Art-related platforms. So this will give a possibility to young people and to older people who has a normal means to buy a real decent art, which maybe will be very valuable in the future. You will have an opportunity to buy art from Argentina or from Australia. You couldn't get it right now unless you have some friends. You will be able, thanks to metaverse and augmented reality technology, to fruit this object on your wall, and you will see whether it fits me or not. I believe that most people would like to have a genuine art, and they are restricted. Okay, if you are not happy enough to have a lot of money and travel a lot and be interested in art, you don't have this opportunity to really participate. And NFT augments incredibly our participation level. Now you cannot say you don't have art because you don't know or whatever. Now you can say I don't have art because I'm not interested. But if you are interested, it's something under your hand. And I must say I'm very happy, because I started to do a real NFT-oriented project in our office a couple of months ago, and now one of our developers is buying NFT. But he's always looking at it. And this was new for him. So I'm happy. The wallet is an NFT, you know, and people are in some way coming to art, because having or access to a good art, or listening to good music, this is a will of nearly everybody, but you need means to access it. Okay, so I believe NFT is something which will stay for us forever, but of course it will change a lot. But for the first time in our history, we have a means to digitally transfer the value, to digitally give control to the creators, so they have advantage which they will always get something on the secondary market, and they can have a kind of control. There is a mass of problems like different platforms, double spending, whatever. But all this will go. All this will be regulated. Of course, there will be cheaters, but there will be organism who will take care about all this. So I'm very optimistic, and I'm very happy on the other side that it opens a huge new door for my company, for me, and for many